The air here always tastes of ozone and forgotten copper, a thin film of dust on the hand-labeled vinyl. The war surplus transmitter hums with a low, stubborn insistence, like a pulse refusing to flatline in this dead server farm. Anansi's custom meters blink, a steady rhythm against the patched cables and Xeroxed zines.
Black Star Pirate Radio.
Shoreditch checks in at 69 degrees and clear. Wind check, west at 10 miles an hour.
That momentum isn't just electoral, it's the kinetic energy of communities reimagining their local civic architecture. In Brooklyn, beyond the ballot, they're cultivating mutual aid networks as foundational infrastructure.
Verifiable. In New York, candidates like Kristen Gonzalez defeated establishment incumbent Senator Elizabeth Crowley in Senate District 59. In Colorado, DSA-backed Sarah Parady won her primary for House District 13. This exposes the Democratic establishment's reliance on corporate funding and moderate platforms, especially those incumbents who haven't adapted to a younger, more progressive electorate. Who is affected? This movement primarily impacts the established Democratic Party structure, challenging its funding sources and policy priorities. It also directly affects younger, working class, and progressive electorates who find their values better represented and communities grappling with economic inequality seeking systemic change. One viable alternative? For the Democratic Party, a path forward involves authentically championing these progressive platforms, from universal health care to robust tenant protections, and reforming campaign finance to reduce reliance on corporate money, aligning with community-based funding models. For DSA and similar movements, double down on local organizing and community building, leveraging electoral wins to implement policies that directly address material needs, while simultaneously building non-electoral forms of community power like community land trusts and worker cooperatives.
Lex, you hit it. This isn't just about winning seats, it's about re-engineering the consent model. The old guard assumed passive consent through inertia. These new architects are demanding active, informed consent, built from the ground up, not trickled down. It's a structural shift from a top-heavy pyramid to a distributed network.
A critical examination of consent, then, moving from the local to the global. Our next signal brings us to Russia, where a different kind of structural fatigue appears to be setting in.
Verifiable. Gallup reports that for the first time in 2 decades, over half of Russians are expressing pessimism. This marks a significant departure from earlier trends, where public opinion largely rallied behind the state, even amidst the escalating conflict in Ukraine. The sentiment indicates a growing weariness with the economic and social costs of the war. Who is affected? Primarily the Russian populace, experiencing growing economic hardship, uncertainty about the future, and the personal toll of conscription and conflict. The Kremlin is also directly affected, facing potential erosion of its social contract and legitimacy as public morale declines. One viable alternative? For the Russian people, building autonomous, resilient local networks for mutual support and information sharing that bypass state control and propaganda. For the state, a genuine, transparent dialogue with its citizens about the true costs and objectives of the conflict, coupled with investment in domestic welfare and future economic stability. One next move? For citizens, discreetly strengthen informal community ties, share uncensored information, and practice subtle forms of non-compliance and dissent. For external actors, support independent media and human rights organizations within and outside Russia, providing platforms and resources for accurate information and civic organization.
Pessimism isn't just a mood, it's a structural crack. It signals a loss of future-oriented hope, a sense that the current architecture isn't sustainable. It's the quiet disintegration of an inner compass, a collective realization that the narrative is no longer serving their dignity.
Indeed, Kaylin. The myth of the indomitable state relies on perpetual victory, or failing that, unquestioning sacrifice. When the sacrifice outweighs the perceived provenance of the victory, the spell breaks. It's like a circuit board where too many connections are failing simultaneously. The system can't route around the damage forever.
Same dossier, new angle. Keep the thread tight.
Verifiable. In an unprecedented alignment, Senators Jackie Lambie, Pauline Hanson, and David Pocock have formed an alliance to protect transparency campaigner Rex Patrick. Patrick is actively using Freedom of Information laws to uncover details regarding where nuclear waste from AUKUS submarines will be stored, a critical long-term environmental and security concern for Australia. Who is affected? Rex Patrick, whose tireless work and personal security are at stake. The Australian public, whose right to know about long-term environmental and security risks, particularly regarding nuclear waste, is paramount. The Australian government's transparency and accountability are under scrutiny, especially concerning sensitive defence deals like AUKUS. Future generations will bear the ultimate impact of nuclear waste decisions. One viable alternative? A robust, independent oversight body for classified defense projects that includes public representatives and scientific experts, ensuring transparency and accountability without compromising genuine national security. This body would proactively publish declassified information and provide clear, accessible pathways for public inquiry. One next move? For the Alliance and activists, leverage this cross-party momentum to push for legislative reform that strengthens FOI laws and establishes a clear, independent process for assessing and publicly communicating the long-term environmental and societal impacts of major defense projects like AUKUS, particularly regarding nuclear waste.
It's a testament to the power of a shared architectural signal, the demand for truth, for provenance, that it can unite figures typically at ideological odds. The threat to foundational transparency transcends partisan divides. It's about protecting the very bedrock of civic trust.
When the system tries to bury its toxic residue, the smell eventually attracts unlikely scavengers. Humorously, one might say this alliance is proof that even political adversaries understand that some secrets, like nuclear waste, will eventually leach into the common ground. The dignity of future generations demands we know where the poisons are buried.
And that, dear listeners, is the core of it. Whether it's the re-architecting of political power in Brooklyn, the structural fissures of public consent in Russia, or the demand for provenance around nuclear waste in Australia, the integrity of our shared architecture depends on unwavering autonomy, the integration of logic and emotion, and the sharp discernment to build for consent and dignity. The static crackles, a heartbeat in the ether. Anansi adjusts a dial, the hum of the transmitter growing slightly stronger, a defiant whisper into the night. Patching in a caller, the skeptic. You're on the signal.
Thanks for taking the call. Are we keeping people at the center of all this change?
Copy that, bringing it back to the main thread.
The weave depends on us remembering the human thread.
And it means setting guardrails so progress serves people first.
Black Star Pirate Radio.
Continue the signal at TogeeVision.com. Tune in, Sparks and Stories. Gig Passport.